I never expected to speak 8 languages until one millionaire saw my potential. I will never forget that day. It was a stormy afternoon, the kind that sends chills down your spine. My heart raced as I sat alone in that tiny cafe, nursing a lukewarm coffee. The smell of rain mixed with the scent of burnt pastries clung to the air. I felt trapped, suffocated by my own dreams. I was nobody. Just a girl from a small town with big aspirations. My fingers trembled as I flipped through the well-worn pages of my phrasebooks, chock full of notes from sleepless nights. I wanted more than this. I thought of my family, how they toiled endlessly to provide. The sacrifices they made echoed in my mind like haunting whispers. I wanted to give back, to make them proud, but how? Suddenly, the door swung open with a loud creak. A stranger, tall and imposing, entered. The storm raged outside, yet I felt an inexplicable heat radiate from him. His eyes swept over the cafe, sharp and calculating. I froze. Could he see me? My heart pounded in rhythm with the rain tapping against the window. Then, our gazes locked. A bolt of electricity shot through me. How could I describe the intensity of that moment? He strode toward me, each step filled with purpose. The air around us thickened. "I'm looking for someone special," he said, his voice smooth like glass. "Someone with an untapped potential." My breath caught. Was he speaking to me? In that instant, a whirlwind of emotions surged within me: fear, excitement, doubt. 8 languages danced in my mind, a symphony of sounds that I longed to master. But could I really? Would he risk it all on a girl like me? He leaned closer, and I could feel the weight of his gaze. "What if I told you I could help you become fluent in all of them?" My heart raced faster, each word lit a fire inside me. I couldn't grasp the implications. What was the catch? Who was this man, really? His sharp suit and more mysterious air surrounded him like a shroud. For the first time, hope flickered brightly before me, but it was tangled with uncertainty. What did he want from me? My dreams hung precariously between peril and promise. I wanted to reach out, to grasp that thread of possibility, yet the looming question hovered like a storm cloud: what would I have to give up to achieve my dreams? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The next few days stretched out like a fragile string, each moment laden with both anxiety and anticipation. I found myself at the cafe again, every creak of the door igniting my hopes momentarily. The millionaire's promise echoed in my head like a haunting melody. I was caught in a whirlpool of emotions, torn between the intoxicating allure of opportunity and the paralyzing fear of losing everything I had. I returned to my studies with fervor. I buried myself in books and audio lessons, memorizing phrases and dissecting grammar rules. Each day I made a little more progress, but just as quickly, doubt seeped back in. What if this was just a ruse? What if I was wasting my time chasing shadows? I clutched the books tighter, my thoughts an unforgiving storm inside. The weight of my aspirations became a burden, but still, I battled on. Then, one evening, I received a text from him. The words flashed on my phone screen and sent a jolt through me: "Meet me at the gallery tomorrow, 7 p.m. My heart raced. What could he want now? I spent the night restless, contemplating all the possible scenarios. Would he finally reveal his expectations? Or worse, would he pull the rug out from under me and leave me stranded in my struggles? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, I made my way to the gallery, each step heavy with apprehension. I pushed open the door, and the scent of paint mingled with fresh flowers wafted toward me, easing my tension momentarily. The room was alive with the vibrant colors of abstract art, but I barely noticed. My eyes searched for him, my heart drumming a frantic beat in my chest. There he stood, framed by a large canvas that appeared to ripple with movement, the colors swirling in a way that seemed almost alive. He turned as I approached, and the corners of his mouth lifted in a knowing smile. "You came," he said softly, almost as though he expected me to doubt his words. "I didn't know what to expect," I admitted, my voice shaking slightly. "Why did you want to meet?" He gestured toward the painting, a radiant clash of blue and gold. "I've been observing your progress. You're becoming someone worthy of the opportunities that lie ahead." His gaze softened, as if he saw a flicker of potential within me that I struggled to acknowledge myself. And my heart swelled, yet the knot of uncertainty tightened once more. "But what do you gain from this? What's the catch?" I whispered, unable to shake the feeling that my vulnerabilities were being gambled with. He sighed, his expression shifting. "It's not merely about what I gain. This resonates beyond profit. I see so much of myself in you, in the battles we face. You want to rise from your station, so do I, in ways you can't yet fathom." I pondered his words, attempting to decipher the unspoken depth in that moment. Just as the magnitude of his statement began to sink in, a sudden commotion erupted across the gallery. A woman stormed in, her high heels clicking angrily against the polished floor, eyes ablaze with fury. "James! You promised me this wouldn't be a problem!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the air like a knife. I turned, heart racing anew. This was clearly an unexpected twist, a chaotic burst that brought tension crashing into the tenderness of our moment. James' posture shifted, an edge of defensiveness creeping into his demeanor. "I'll handle this," he said, but his expression was one I had never seen before, liquid fear, with something darker lurking beneath the surface. I stood frozen, uncertainty now mixing with dread. They exchanged words, but I couldn't grasp the details, only the escalating volume and the palpable tension filled the space. It felt like I was witnessing a hidden world where promises tangled with shadows, where secrets danced just beyond reach. Just as I turned to leave, the woman's eyes met mine, and her gaze pierced through me like a knife. "You think this is a game?" she spat, her accusation laced with venom. "He's not who you think he is. Just remember, nothing comes without a cost." The words hung heavy in the air, an ominous warning. My pulse quickened as I felt the ground beneath me shift, the fleeting hope I had once clung to feeling more fragile than ever. As I left the gallery, my heart thrummed with confusion. What had I stepped into? And now, more than ever, I feared what lay ahead in this journey I had started. Could I trust him? Was I merely a pawn in someone else's game? The storm of uncertainty had returned, but this time it felt different. I was standing on the precipice, and for the first time, the abyss below threatened to pull me down. The days that followed the gallery incident felt like a haunting dream. I woke up each morning with the woman's words echoing in my mind, an incessant whisper that tainted the very essence of my aspirations. She had disrupted the fragile web of hope I'd been weaving, forcing me to confront the shadows lurking in the corners of my heart. In an attempt to distract myself, I threw myself into my studies with renewed fervor, memorizing vocabulary and practicing while riding the bus or during lunch breaks at work. Yet, with each hour spent in pursuit of knowledge, the bittersweet taste of uncertainty only deepened. I often found myself staring blankly at the pages, struggling to form connections, each word a reminder of what could slip away from me. At night, however, in the stillness of my small apartment, everything came crashing down. The glow of my desk lamp illuminated a world that felt increasingly isolating. I worried about what James had withstood before he entered my life. Had he faced the same kind of betrayal? The thought rippled through me, mingling with each breath I took. The turbulence of my emotions left me restless, a storm churning within. Then, one afternoon, as I studied at the cafe, the door creaked open, and a familiar figure stepped inside. It was Clara, my mentor from the language academy. Her presence was a burst of warmth against the cool shadows of my doubt, and she made her way to my table with an easy smile. "Mind if I join?" she asked, her eyes twinkling with genuine interest. "Of course," I replied, grateful for the distraction. "What's on your mind?" she asked after a moment of silence, as she sipped her coffee, watching me with those keen, understanding eyes. I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the turmoil swirling within me, but I found the words tumbling out. I have this opportunity to work with someone, but I don't know if I can trust him. I'm terrified of being used. My voice cracked, and the honesty of my vulnerability terrified me. Clara's expression shifted to one of compassion. It's a delicate balance, she said softly. And trust me, I've faced my share of deceivers. But not everyone comes with malice. Sometimes, people genuinely want to help. She reached across the table, placing her hand over mine, an unexpected anchor amid my uncertainty. Have you discussed your fears with him? I shook my head, recounting our last encounter, how fear had gripped me and prevented me from being honest. Clara listened patiently, nodding with understanding, and offered a small smile. You deserve to express your concerns. True partnerships are built on transparency. Her words wrapped around me like an embrace, momentarily dulling the sting of my angst. Perhaps Clara was right. Perhaps I needed to confront James, to reveal the doubts festering inside me. As evening descended, I gathered my courage and composed a text to James. Can we talk? It's important. I hit send with a mix of hope and trepidation, and soon, while pacing at home, I felt a ping on my phone. Of course. Same place? The gallery loomed before me again, this time a canvas of my escalating fear and hope. I stepped through its doors, the air thick with the scent of oil paint and something sweeter, an undercurrent of possibility. He stood near the same painting that had drawn me to him before, an image of movement and nuance. As my eyes found him, he smiled, but the expression faltered ever so slightly, his brows knitting together. You look serious, he said, his usual ease tempered with an edge of concern. I need to talk about what happened the other night. I started, my voice wavering. He nodded, gesturing to a quieter corner of the gallery, away from the cascading noise of art enthusiasts mingling. The shadows seemed deeper there, but they offered a sanctuary, a refuge for what was to come. Go on, he encouraged, his gaze earnest. Taking a deep breath, I forced out the words I had rehearsed. I'm afraid of the implications of this relationship. I don't want to be just a stepping stone for you. My heart raced as I unveiled my insecurities, laying bare the rawness beneath my ambition. For a moment, he was quiet, studying me with an intensity that made me feel both vulnerable and seen. You're not a stepping stone to me, he said firmly. You're potential in its purest form. But I can understand why you would feel that way. Desperation surged as I pressed further. But how am I supposed to believe that? There's so much I don't know about you, and that woman. I shifted uncomfortably, bringing up the haunting echoes of their confrontation. Who was she? What's the truth? He stiffened, shadows crossing his features. Let's not talk about her right now. I can't lie to you, there are complexities. My world is filled with them. He ran a hand through his hair, visibly distressed. At that moment, a man in a crisp suit approached, tension radiating from him, interrupting our exchange. James, we need to discuss this now. They're still trying to back out of the deal. James turned sharply, frustration flaring in his eyes. Not now, Ben, he snapped, and the air thickened with unspoken conflict. The abruptness of his dismissal sent chills down my spine. What secrets lay hidden beneath his allure? Feeling the concrete beneath me shift, I was reminded of my footing on this precipice, the ever-looming abyss below. Just moments later, a sudden flicker crossed James' face. Fear? Or was it desperation? And I was left standing amidst swirling colors and echoes of dreams, caught between the urge to leap forward or retreat back into the shadows. The facade began to crack, and I felt myself spiraling downward into an uncharted reality. Questions lingered in the air like specters. How deep did the deceptions run? What would it take to uncover the truth? As we maintained eye contact, a sudden realization washed over me, a clanging bell of alarm. I was not merely a player in his game. I was a pawn standing at the edge, teetering precariously on the brink of revelation, and the world I thought I understood began to fade away. The world outside the gallery pulsed with life, but inside, an unsettling silence fell over me as I processed James' abrupt dismissal of Ben. I felt like I was trapped in a glass box, observing the unfolding drama but unable to reach out. James glanced back at me, his face wavering between irritation and confusion. The weight of his gaze bore down on me, and suddenly it all felt too overwhelming. "Excuse me for a moment," he said, pivoting towards Ben, who stood, arms crossed, an unyielding mountain of authority. I strained to hear their conversation, but the hum of voices around us blended into a dissonant blur. My heart raced, fueled by an array of emotions: fear, curiosity, and an unsettling urgency to uncover what lay beneath the surface of Jameis' life. Why would he let someone like that dictate his actions? I whispered to myself, clenching my fists in frustration. Ben's presence loomed large, a reminder that shadows persisted even in moments of clarity. I leaned against the wall, seeking an anchor, my mind whirling like the figures painted onto the canvas behind me. Just then, Clara's friendly face appeared in my periphery. Her arrival was a balm for my unraveling heart. "I thought I'd find you here," she said, her tone warm and bright, a lighthouse in this tempest. "What's going on?" I forced a smile. "Just talking with James about everything," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes flitted to the men across the room, and she leaned in closer. "I'm sensing tension. Should I intervene?" "No," I protested, panic rising in my chest. "I need to understand this on my own." Clara scrutinized me, a knowing look in her eyes. "Trust your instincts. Just remember, every story has layers. Unraveling them can be painful, but it's often worth it. At that moment, I realized I was on the precipice of something bigger than myself. I took a breath, feeling Clara's encouragement wash over me. "You're right. I want the truth," I replied, my voice steadier, though my heart still stuttered in rhythm. James and Ben's conversation resumed, a heated exchange punctuated by furrowed brows and animated gestures. I stole glances at James, searching for the sincerity I once found in his eyes, the flame of ambition that had drawn me to him. But tonight, it flickered uncertainly, obscured by looming clouds of stress and hidden agendas. After what felt like an eternity, James finally stepped away from Ben, his face taut and edged with frustration. Ben departed, casting one last look my way with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. It felt like a warning and a challenge all at once. "Everything okay?" I asked, my heart pounding with urgency as I fought to dissolve the distance that had widened between us. James ran a hand through his hair again, exhaling sharply. "Not really. There are complications, and they're growing by the day." His eyes flickered with something I couldn't name: fear or resolve, perhaps. "Like what?" The question slipped from my lips, and a part of me recoiled at my boldness. This was the moment I needed to confront whatever truth lay beneath his facade. He hesitated, and for a fleeting second, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability before he masked it again. "Let's not burden this moment with my problems." "But they matter," I insisted, my voice low, almost pleading. "I can't navigate this if I don't understand what's really happening." He sighed, his shoulders sagging, and I could see the weight of his world pressing down on him. "You deserve to know. And maybe, just maybe, it's essential you remain uninvolved." "Uninvolved?" I echoed, panic spiking in my chest. "Why would you want to protect me by shutting me out? Is it that dangerous?" His gaze fell to the ground, and the air thickened with unresolved tension. "There are people who care too much about my trajectory, those who don't want to see me fail. I made choices, and those choices come at a price." I stepped forward, my determination ignited. "James," I refused to be pushed aside. I swallowed hard, fighting against the desperation swelling within me. "If we're going to work together, I need to understand every facet of it. Even the parts that scare us." In that moment, he looked up, meeting my gaze fully. It was there, the flicker of connection, a shared understanding hovering between us, suspended in time, as if the world around us had faded away. "I can't guarantee your safety," he warned, his voice low and grave. "And I won't drag you into a mess that risks everything you've worked for." I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could gather my thoughts, a shout echoed from the far end of the gallery, breaking our fragile moment. We turned as a woman, her face contorted in anger, stormed forward. "James! You think you can just cut me out of this deal?" The abruptness of her arrival felt like a lightning strike through the calm. Her presence felt eerily familiar, the fabric of my reality beginning to fray at the edges. "Who is she?" I whispered, suddenly gripped by a sense of dread that resonated within me. James' expression darkened, and something in his demeanor shifted. "I really need to handle this," he said, and as he stepped away, the gap between us expanded, leaving me consumed by rising uncertainty. I watched as the tension escalated, Maurice, a name that echoed through my mind, drifting back with the weight of unwelcome memories. This was more than the unearthing of secrets. This was a storm brewing, and I was caught in its eye. Just when I thought the night couldn't become any more tumultuous, the woman turned to me and smiled a disconcerting smile, as if ready to reveal something hidden. And in that single, charged moment, everything unraveled, and I braced for impact, knowing I was no longer just watching the drama. I was right in the center of it, teetering on the edge of an unforgiving precipice. The atmosphere in the gallery suddenly shifted with the arrival of the woman. Her name, Morris, clung to the edges of my memory like a forgotten tune, stirring something deep within me. I watched as she advanced, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, each step punctuating the tension hanging in the air like a thundercloud ready to burst. "James, you're making a grave mistake," she said, her voice cutting through the ambient chatter as if it were a knife. I could see the mounting tension in James' posture, his jaw clenched tight, every muscle in his body poised for a fight or flight. Before I could process my next thought, Morris' eyes darted towards me, and her smile transformed. It was knowing, predatory, as if she could sift through my defenses with just a glance. "And you must be the new assistant," she declared, her voice silky but charged with a hidden menace. "I've heard a lot about you." A shiver ran down my spine. "I don't bother," she interrupted sharply. "I'm well aware of your ambitions. It's fascinating, really. You're stepping into a world that's far larger than you may realize. It seems some people are too willing to sacrifice their own safety for the sake of others." Her words hung in the air, laden with irony. I glanced at James, his frustration palpable, but even more alarming was the flicker of fear that danced across his features. The dynamic between them crackled, a current that pulled me into the swirling chaos. "What do you want, Morris?" James asked, a low growl underlining his words as he positioned himself protectively between her and me. She waved a dismissive hand, rolling her eyes as if this were all inconsequential. "Just to ensure that certain deals are upheld. I've invested in you, James, and your decisions reflect on me. You can't go running off with a new project without discussing it first." I felt the weight of her gaze shift back to me, and her smile widened, almost playful. "You should really watch out for him. The more involved you become, the more those around you will take notice, and not all of them will be friendly. A sickening feeling curled in the pit of my stomach. Underneath the facade of sophistication lay potential threats, and Morris was a harbinger of chaos. In my gut, I sensed the faint stirrings of what a truly cutthroat world looked like behind the canvas that James had once made seem so beautiful. "Leave her out of this," James asserted, tension radiating off of him like heat from a flame. I could see him straining, the corners of his resolve fraying under her oppressive presence. Morris chuckled softly, almost a musical quality to it, but laced with a hint of malice. "How noble, James! But the truth is you can't protect everyone. And those who get too close often end up collateral damage. Just think about that." Her words ricocheted around the room, bouncing off the walls and slithering their way into my mind. I felt something enormous shift within me, an uncomfortable awareness that perhaps mine was the world that collided with danger head-on, unwilling to cower in silence. Suddenly, Morris turned, slinking away with the confidence of someone who had won the battle but didn't declare victory. I looked at James, who stood rooted in place, his eyes shadowed with uncertainty. "Are you okay?" I asked, instinctively reaching out for him, desperate to bridge the chasm that had opened between us in mere moments. His breath hitched, and I could see a struggle behind his steely demeanor, a fight to keep whatever storm was brewing at bay. "I'm fine," he lied, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "No, you're not. You need to let me in." He hesitated, his eyes drifting toward the crowd who seemed to look on, oblivious to the intensity of our moment. I can't, he finally breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't drag you into this. You have no idea, the risks are too great. Isn't that my choice? The very air between us felt electric, charged by the unspoken decision hanging in my heart. You don't get to decide for me. I want to understand. A flicker of desperation crossed his face, and the steel in his composure wavered. You don't understand what's at stake. My past, it's not just mine anymore. It's connected to people who have no problem destroying anyone in their path to get what they want. My heart raced. His past. That looming shadow that had followed him, and now threatened to overshadow me too. Then let's face it together, I urged, feeling the gravity of his turmoil but equally resolute in my desire to remain steadfast beside him. Before he could respond, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, pulling my attention away. I fished it out, and my breath caught as I read the screen. An unexpected message flashed ominously. You're being watched. Do not engage with him further. The world around me narrowed as I read those words again, each letter etched into my consciousness like a grim tattoo. Fearing what I might find, I looked up at James, whose expression had shifted, his gaze piercing through me with a mixture of confusion and urgency. Who was that? He asked, taking a step closer, the urgency palpable as he sought answers. I don't know, I stammered, the fight or flight instinct igniting. This was far more complicated than I had anticipated. It was dangerous and tangled, poised to consume everything I held dear. James opened his mouth as if to say something else, but I didn't wait. The walls seemed to close in around us as the implications of Morris' presence and the threat embedded in my phone loomed over me, heavy and dark. We stood at the edge of an uncertain precipice, both of us unsure of how to navigate the consequences closing in from every side. And as I took a shaky breath, I realized that our destinies were inexplicably tied together, teetering on the brink of revelation. The gallery buzzed with the kind of vibrant energy that usually invigorated me, but now it felt like a cage. I could hardly focus on the vibrant hues of the paintings surrounding me, each brushstroke lost in the chaos of my racing thoughts. James stepped back, his expression coiling tighter with every passing second. The distance between us felt unbearable, electrified by the dark shadows unfolding around us. Do you think this is a joke? He asked, his brows furrowed deeply, anger and concern battling within him. They won't stop until they get what they want. I don't want to be kept in the dark, James, I replied, forcing my voice to remain steady despite the tremor beneath. I refuse to be a pawn in this. His eyes widened slightly, as if my resolve had pierced through the haze of his urgency. What do you mean? I gestured widely at the gallery, the way the laughter and conversation seemed like echoes bouncing off stone walls. I want to help. To understand what we're facing. You can't bear it alone. Before he could respond, the weight of the message on my phone pressed down on me like a stone. My heart dropped as I thought of Morris, that dangerous glimmer in her eyes. The ones watching. What if they haven't just seen me? What if they've seen you too? James shook his head, exasperation etching deeper lines on his forehead. There are things about my past that go beyond mere observation. They know people, dangerous people, and they will stop at nothing. His voice was thick with desperation now, and as fury bubbled within me, I realized it was directed at the very circumstances that were pushing us apart. I can take care of myself, James. You have to trust me, I insisted, advancing towards him. You're not the only one with a stake in this. I deserve to know. His eyes softened only slightly, a flash of regret cutting through the tension. You don't know the world you're stepping into, he warned quietly. Not everyone is kind. Some people are ruthless. They'll use whatever they can against you, and you think I'm weak? The challenge in my voice surprised even me. Maybe it's you who are underestimating me. I felt a flicker of hope spark between us, a brief moment where we were no longer just two distressed souls pushing against an unseen wall of danger. Before long, our conversation was interrupted by the soft chime of music from an unseen source. It was a haunting melody, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling between us. When I turned to locate the sound, I noticed a small girl, no older than 7, spinning in a sunny corner of the gallery, her laughter cascading through the room like a magical antidote. The sight was disarming. I felt a swell of warmth nestled in my chest as she twirled, her dress floating like petals in the breeze. My heart settled momentarily amidst the cacophony of emotions swirling above us. "Did you see that?" I breathed out, pointing towards the girl. "There's still beauty in this world." But James, his attention still fixed on me, let out a low, bitter chuckle. "Perhaps, but beauty will never protect you from the harshness of reality." That remark felt like a knife thrust into my side. He was clinging to a darkness that threatened to consume the very spark of hope I wanted so badly to hold on to. "I refuse to let fear dictate my choices," I replied, standing tall, determined to dismantle his barriers, if only partially. "We can't let this consume us." Fingers still clutching my phone, I felt the sharp vibration of another message. My heart pounded as I reluctantly turned it over, taking another quick glance to make sure no one else was watching. Yet it felt like Morris' mocking laughter lingered in the air. "Meet me tomorrow. Midnight. A few blocks from here. You need to know the truth about him." My breath caught in my throat. About him. The weight of those words felt monumental, laden with implications I couldn't yet grasp. Who were they? Why would Morris want to share anything at all about James? My instincts screamed for caution even as a surge of curiosity throbbed within me. "Who's texting you?" James inquired sharply, his posture tightening once. Again, my voice faltered, the fear bubbling just beneath my bravado. "It's nothing. Just a friend. Tell me." He pressed, stepping closer. I shook my head, my pulse racing as I felt the tension flood back into the air between us, each moment heavy with unspoken truths. "I can't." "Not yet." James turned away, frustration emanating from him in waves. "If you choose to hide things from me, I can't protect you. You have to decide yes, or this mess." The gravity of his ultimatum felt overwhelmingly suffocating. I had thought we were fighting together, against the world threatening to tear us apart, but now it felt like I was teetering on a knife edge of choices. And then, a flicker of movement caught my eye on the far side of the gallery. Morris stood there again, a shadow draped in silk. I could feel her gaze piercing down on me from a distance, a smirk playing at the corner of her lips that promised entanglement in matters I couldn't perceive. With a sudden clarity, I realized the stakes were higher than I had anticipated. The ground beneath me shifted, and the world I thought I knew began to unravel. My heart raced as she raised a hand, beckoning. It was a silent invitation that sent chills down my spine, but curiosity and dread fought for dominance within me as I turned back to look at James, whose expression mirrored my turmoil. "I have to go," I whispered, stepping backward, torn between the girl in the gallery and the shadows that loomed beyond. "Wait!" The desperation in his voice chased after me. "Don't go alone." But without a single thought about how this might put us both at risk, I turned my back and began to walk towards Morris, the heavy weight of uncertainty trailing behind me like a ghost. The truth was out there waiting, but it was cloaked in danger and guarded by those who sought to keep it hidden. And with every step I took, I felt the threads of my fate being woven tighter into a tapestry filled with secrets and the jagged edges of betrayal. The gallery faded into the background as I approached Morris, each step laden with a cocktail of anxiety and determination. Her silhouette seemed to shimmer in the dim light, a dark halo surrounded by the vibrant colors of the paintings. I was aware of the gravity of what I was about to do. It felt like stepping off a precipice into unknown depths. "Morris," I ventured cautiously, trying to keep the quiver from my voice. "What do you want from me?" She tilted her head slightly, allowing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes to stretch across her lips. "Oh, darling, it's not what I want. It's what you need. Let's cut the games. Your little love affair with James is about to take a very interesting turn." Panic surged through me, hot and suffocating. "What do you mean? How do you know about us?" "About him." I felt vulnerable under her gaze, half a step away from being dissected like one of the pieces on display. She chuckled lightly, leaning into me as if sharing a conspiratorial secret. "I've been watching. I know all about his past, the people he's entangled with. You see, James believes he can protect you, but the truth is, he's only putting you at greater risk. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting James to burst through the crowd and pull me away from her grasp. But he was still, an island adrift amidst the cacophony, and my heart twisted as I turned back to Morris, desperate for clarity. I don't understand what you want from me, I insisted, fighting against the growing dread wrapping around my heart. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I want you to see his truth. It's buried beneath layers of deceit, and you must decide if your bond is strong enough to withstand it. They are coming, you know. The ones who won't stop until they have what they want, whether you love him or not. I love him. The words escaped me before I could stop them, raw and unpolished. I felt both empowered and foolish, caught between the truth I lived and the chaos swirling around us. Morris blinked slowly, her expression momentarily startled, then smirked, leaning back just a fraction. Love can be a beautiful thing and a deadly weakness. Remember that. She straightened up, her demeanor suddenly turning serious, as if the jesting facade had shifted to reveal a dangerously focused predator. James had to make choices in his life that resulted in dark paths, alliances that are bound by blood. I can help you understand them. I can help you save him. But you must trust me. Words tumbled in my mind. Why should I trust you, Morris? You're the last person I'd turn to. She shrugged, her nonchalance relaxing the tension coiling in her shoulders. Unfortunately for you, I am your best option. I know them, those lurking shadows waiting to consume your little love story. They won't hesitate to strip you of everything you hold dear. Her gaze intensified, and it felt as if she was peeling back layers of my resolve. Suddenly, flashes of my own vulnerabilities sliced through my heart. I thought of James, how he never let on about his own fears, yet somehow managed to nurture mine. Could I truly understand the risks he was buried under without knowing the depths of his past? Lingering hesitance danced on the surface of my thoughts, compelling me to stay rooted. But then I reminded myself of James' words, the very real dangers around us. Hesitation could cost us everything. What do I need to do? I asked, my voice steadier now, fueled by an unexpected determination. Morris' eyes gleamed with satisfaction, a predator satisfied in the moment of capture. Meet me tomorrow night. It'll reveal everything you need to know. She turned at her own pace, gliding away through the thrumming gallery, leaving me standing at the crossroad of choice. But the conflicting emotions refused to settle. Should I confront James with this knowledge or protect him, stubbornly hoping he could shield me from the storm? As I slowly made my way back to where James had been, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom settling over us like a storm shrouded in clouds. When I returned, my heart sank. At the vision of him talking to a stranger, a man, tall and imposing, whose confident demeanor was marked by a strikingly familiar glint in his eyes. It felt as if a piece of my world had been pulled out from under me again. James, I called out, but he didn't hear. The stranger leaned in, whispering something into his ear. With a shared glance, I could see the tension flickering between them, like a low flame craving for air. What's happening? I whispered to myself, instinctively stepping forward. Suddenly, the man glanced in my direction, and the world tunneled. It felt as if space had folded, compressing that searing glint into an unexpected familiarity, the same glint I had seen in Morris's eyes, only sharper, colder. James finally turned, that familiar mixture of worry and anger overtaking his features as he caught my eye. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, urgently beckoning me to steer away. But we were just starting this journey together, and every instinct urged me forward. The choices were crashing down upon me like waves, each one heavier than the last. There would be no turning back. For in that moment, standing before uncertainties wrapped in deception, I understood the weight of my next steps, the inevitable truth that could either bind us closer or unravel everything in a single unrelenting breath. The gallery buzzed with muted voices, each murmur heightening the sense of tension that clung to me. Even amidst the vibrant splashes of color, and the ever-watchful eyes of the paintings, I felt the walls closing in. I searched James's expression while my heart pounded in my chest. The stranger's presence etched an unsettling mark across his face, Who is this? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt, edging closer to James. My resolve was an intricately woven tapestry, full of love but riddled with anxiety. I needed answers, but the ominous air around us threatened to unravel my composure. James swallowed hard, darting a glance at the stranger and then to me, anguish playing across his features. I told you to stay away, he murmured, panic flickering in his eyes. The stranger's voice cut through the air, smooth and powerful. That's rich, don't you think, James? Your little secret has become a bit too risky to keep hidden. You know the stakes. He leaned in, confident, and his cold smile betrayed no warmth. She deserves to know the truth, don't you think? What do you want from her? James demanded, the tension crystallizing in his stance that I bristled at the exchange, feeling like a pawn on a chessboard. It was then that Morris' warning echoed in my mind, a dissonance settling deep in my gut. The shadows were alive in this very moment, threatening to eclipse everything I held dear. The stranger's eyes flickered toward me, as though slowly assessing my worth. Just to inform her of the reality behind your charming facade, James. After all, she has a right to know who she's really involved with. The words dripped with insinuation, unearthing a dread that spiraled within me. No, I breathed, trying to grasp the threads of courage fracturing with each passing second. I already know he has a past. You will not use me as leverage. The stranger laughed, a sound devoid of mirth. You may think you're safe with him, but you don't know the extent of the danger that follows. You are a beautiful distraction, but distractions are often dangerous. James moved in front of me protectively, a guardian against the encroaching darkness. I've kept you safe. Don't listen to him. He's trying to manipulate you. His voice bore the weight of both fear and determination. Safe? I echoed, my heart racing. Is that what you call this, the shadows closing in as the noise fades around us? This isn't safety, James. This is a ticking clock. My voice was sharp, and I regretted raising it, but there was no taking back the truth. The stranger leaned back slightly, intrigued. Ah, so she's learning. A bit faster than I anticipated. He smirked, eyes gleaming with a sinister edge. But knowing isn't the same as understanding. Let's see how long that courage lasts when faced with what's lurking beneath the surface. The unsaid hung heavy in the air. What was beneath? What hidden world lay overshadowed by James's protective facade? I felt an urgency to glean clarity from the chaos, a desire to peel back the layers that were obscuring my vision. Enough games, I shot back, clenching my fists. If I'm going to be part of this, if I'm going to be part of your life, then I want to know everything. My voice quivered, tore at the edges, but I refused to let fear choke my resolve. For a moment, silence reigned, thick like fog, as James looked between me and the stranger, his discomfort palpable. You're not ready, Lily. You don't want this burden on your shoulders, he cautioned, his deep voice reverberating with apprehension. Everything inside me was screaming to back down, to step away from the precipice of revelations looming above us. But with every heartbeat, my determination solidified. Then help me understand. Don't you trust me, James? I can't live in uncertainty any longer, not when our futures are interwoven. The stranger's eyes glinted with triumph as he leaned closer, his words curling around us like smoke. A brave choice. But understand this, knowledge can be a curse. You are too entangled in his affairs to ever unbind yourself. I squared my shoulders, refusing to be intimidated. I'll take my chances, I declared, locking eyes with James. His features were marred by an internal struggle, emotions fighting for dominance, love, fear, reluctance. Suddenly, the crowd seemed to thin around us, voices having faded to whispers, and the world around us faded to a blur. My focus was unwavering on James, desperate for him to take my hand, to reassure me that we wouldn't fall apart in this crazy spiral. He took a step back, pain flashing across his face as he processed my words. Lily, he began, but before he could finish, the stranger's hand shot out, drawing my eyes back to him with a predatory gaze. I can reveal more than you realize, however. The question is whether you can handle the truth, he purred, teasing me with secrets of the unknown. There is a hidden order that controls your world, and James is embedded deep within it. Would you still love him if you knew he was on the periphery of danger? My breath caught. This was the heart of the matter. I had to decide what path I was willing to walk. I want to know everything, I repeated, grounding myself in the choice I was making. The stranger assessed me, his expression uncertain yet expectant, as though he was testing the limits of my resolve. Very well. You await your reckoning, but be aware once you step into the light, shadows will always follow. Before I could respond, a crash echoed from the back of the gallery, shattering the fragile moment. The crowd gasped collectively, heads turning toward the commotion. Instinctually, James' hand found mine, our spirits drawn together in shared foreboding. In that chaotic instant, I felt the fabric of our lives shift, a moment pregnant with possibility, teetering on the brink of profound change. The uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud above our heads, an engulfing specter ready to overshadow the fragile corners of our love. Lily, we have to go, James urged, his voice frantic as he started to pull me away. But I hesitated, unable to look away from the stranger as he offered a final, enigmatic smile. This is just the beginning for you both. Remember, once you know, there's no going back. The tension was electric, and as I glanced back at James, the depth of our connection felt all the more poignant beneath the shadow of truth. Every fear, every secret whispered through my mind, all merging into the unknown path that lay ahead. The gallery was now a vortex of chaos, the sharp crack of glass intermingling with the rising murmurs of panic. I could feel James' grip tighten around my wrist as he guided me toward the exit, the urgency in his voice drumming against the backdrop of confusion. Yet I found myself anchored in place, my heart pounding not just from fear, but from the weight of the decision yet to be made. Lily, please! His voice sliced through the cacophony, his eyes piercing mine as if trying to read the tempest within. We need to go. Now. I tore my gaze away from the stranger and finally yielded to the real threat that thundered around us. But as we moved, an intense sensation washed over me, a haunting echo of the words spoken just moments before. Once you know, there's no going back. Who was he? I blurted out, my voice shaky. The panic surged as a dozen people brushed past us, the excitement of the event morphing into a fray of chaos. What truth was he talking about? You can't just leave me in the dark, James. His expression constricted, a battle of worry and resolve playing out. You don't want to know, Lily. I promise you that. But the look in his eyes, filled with a deep-seated vulnerability, only fueled my determination. I can handle it. I don't want to be blind to whatever danger is looming. You said you'd never keep secrets from me, Lily, he hissed, dragging me toward an emergency exit as the shouts around us crescendoed. You don't understand what you're asking for. At his insistence, I felt a surge of anger mixed with the weight of his protective instinct. But you do! My voice broke, frustration pouring through me like a river, a relentless rush against the dam of our silence. You cannot cage me for fear of what might happen. I deserve the truth. Outside, the night air rushed at us, biting and cold. We stumbled onto the gravel parking lot, finding a semblance of peace away from the madness, but it felt deceptive, like being held under the surface of water, desperate for air. James dropped my hand, pacing beside the car, his frustration morphing into something darker. Lily, you think you're ready, but you're not. Trust me, the shadows you're inviting in are not just threats, they're life-altering. Like that man inside? He isn't just anyone, is he? He knows things about you. James finally halted, turning to face me, his expression taut. He knows too much more than I ever wanted him to know. A chilling realization settled within me, and the air felt heavy. What have you done, James? Each word was a quiet tremor, a plea for him to offer clarity. He ran a hand through his hair, the tension in his posture evident. I've tried to keep you safe, but the longer you stay connected to me, the more danger you invite. Danger? I echoed, my heart racing. What kind of danger? I don't even know the half of it. A flicker of anguish crossed his face, and I caught my breath as he stepped closer, lowering his voice as if the world outside was listening. Am involved in things, dangerous things. Things that could put you in harm's way. What kind of things? My voice trembled. He hesitated, his eyes narrowing. I've been working with people who don't just play in shadows, they own the darkness. They will stop at nothing to keep their secrets safe, and I have gotten too close. The truth resonated like a haunting melody, a tapestry of caution interwoven with the emotions flowing between us. I felt betrayed, yet a pulse of empathy surged within. And that's why you pushed me away? He nodded, anguish etching deeper lines across his forehead. I thought if I kept you at a distance, you'd be safe. Just like I thought tonight if I kept you out of it, you wouldn't know the burden I carry. The honesty in his acknowledgement stirred my heart. But what if I choose to share that burden? I dared to step closer, my heart open, willing to embrace the perilous road ahead if it meant standing by his side. For a moment, I saw a flicker of hope in his stormy eyes, battling against the shadows that thrummed between us. You could lose everything, Lily. I can't let that happen. You don't get to decide that for me. I protested, renewed strength coursing through me. But I need to know what you're facing. In that charged silence, the door of our shared reality seemed to sway on its hinges. Then with resolve, James took a deep breath, the weight of his fears etched in the tension of his shoulders. Underground partnerships, clandestine art deals that aren't just business, they're the source of money and power, with implications far beyond what anyone perceives. Each word struck me like lightning, igniting the fear I had already felt flare back to life. What does that mean for us? For our future? His gaze softened, desperation creeping into his voice. I can't promise you a safe path if you choose to walk alongside me. There's a risk that could shatter everything we've built. A sudden crash of noise behind us jolted me. The gallery's commotion resumed as sirens blared faintly in the distance. My heart raced anew both from the words spoken and the unpredictability that hung in the air. What if we just drive away? Pretend none of this ever happened? I offered, the idea both thrilling and terrifying. He studied me, hesitating as if weighing the gravity of my suggestion against the depth of feeling that knotted in my chest. You don't want to run just to escape the truth, Lily. Maybe I do. As the urgency swelled inside me, I was overwhelmed by the clarity of my choices aligning with my heart's desire. But if I don't run, will you trust me enough to let me in? It's not just about trust, he said, his voice like gravel. It's about survival. And in that fleeting moment, a shadow crossed his face, the weight of knowledge and the impending truth weighing on us both. I wanted so badly to reach out, to bridge the gap, to make him see that we were worth the risk. But just as the connection flared, a chill danced across my spine as I caught sight of a flicker in the shadows, an ominous figure lingering on the fringes of the parking lot. My breath hitched, and Jameis' face morphed into a mask of horror as realization dawned. It's him! I gasped, recognition leaping within me. And with that, the final strands of our turbulent truth began to weave themselves into a stark reality, one that promised only further entanglements awaited as a dark future loomed ever closer. I remember the first storm that passed through my life, bringing chaos into every corner, a riddle wrapped in shadows, leaving behind a delicate web of uncertainty. But what transpired that fateful night was a tempest we had not anticipated. The figure lurking in the shadows flickered closer, an embodiment of the dangers we had only whispered about. I could feel the tension morphing from anxiety to palpable fear. The atmosphere crackled like the air before lightning strikes. Lily, get in the car! James commanded, his voice slicing through the adrenaline that coursed through me. But instincts had long replaced mere adrenaline. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about understanding and fighting for what mattered. My feet, however, felt like stone. Confusion and resolve tangled within me, preventing me from taking a step back. The hooded figure emerged from darkness, a phantom of our fears surfacing from a realm we had distanced ourselves from. James, he called, voice low and honeyed, dripping with malevolence. You shouldn't have let her get involved. She has nothing to do with this. James bit back, an angry edge in his voice, yet the tremor revealed just how fragile his facade had become. The gravity of that moment settled in as the man advanced, the air thick with warning, and then it hit me. Shadows were not just around us. They were embedding themselves into the very fabric of our story, rippling through every decision we had made. Tell me the truth. I shouted, drowning out fear with courage, determined to peel back the layers binding us in deception. The words exploded from my lips, desperate and raw. I want to know what I'm facing. James turned to me, anguish swirling in his eyes, the vulnerability wrapping around my heart like a requiem. Lily, this isn't the time. It's not safe, he pleaded. No, I interrupted, refusing to accept another layer of secrecy. If we're going to face whatever is coming, I deserve the truth no matter how deeply it cuts. The figure chuckled, a low, dangerous sound that sent chills running down my spine. Look at her, James. Such fire and determination. But you know better than anyone how that spirit is conditioned to break against the waves. The waves are crashing, but I will not drown, I retorted, locked in the intensity of this moment. I stand with him, no matter the danger. I have a right to know the depths of his situation. The words poured from me, resolute and buoyed by love that had intertwined my fate with Jameis in a manner that defied threat. Tread carefully, little girl, the figure said with a mocking smirk. The waters are murky, and many meet their end without ever deciphering the currents. No, James said with ferocity. They won't take her from me, he declared, his posture shifting into one of shielding, a barrier against sinister winds. His voice lowered. They can cut deeper than you imagine, Lily. I refuse to let your light be extinguished. Together. I interrupted, clench of my resolve fueling the air thick with tension. We need to face this together. In that heartbeat, a sudden wave of movement swept through the chaos. The winds pushed against my thoughts, and with it came a decisive realization I didn't just want clarity. I had the power to change our course of fate. From here on, we trust one another, I said, cutting through the uncertainty like a knife cleaving through fog. Whatever darkness lies ahead, we confront it hand in hand. James watched me, the flicker of acceptance igniting in his emerald gaze, alongside fear threading itself around the hope. You want that? You want to stand with me amidst this? His voice was barely a whisper, a question tinged with wonder and dread. Yes, I answered, my heart racing not from the fear of the shadows anymore, but from the magnitude of the promise we were about to make. It felt like a vow as intricate and full as the burdened shadows surrounding us. Just then, the figure moved, seemingly distracted, his focus faltering as though sensing the weight of our connection. Let's see how long that spirit lasts, he muttered. Before I had the chance to react, I felt Jameis' hand clasp around Minea, tether flung from the dark. We're leaving now, he intoned, his voice solid. In that moment, his grip felt like an anchor. I nodded, and together, we pivoted, moving forward, hearts intertwined amidst the quaking uncertainty. I could feel the weight of our fears, our uncertainties and hopes, wrapping around us like a heartbeat, pushing us forward despite the chaos. But fate spun her web tight. The moment we turned to escape, an explosion of light flashed through the parking lot, a burst of chaos crashing against our realistic cacophony of sirens, screeching tires, and the pounding of approaching footsteps. Go! Now! James shouted, urging me forward as we broke into a run, each step pulling us deeper from what we feared, but closer to the truth we both sought. In that moment, the alarms of chaos blared around us, sirens wailing and shadows darting across the ground as we escaped down the dimly lit street, hearts thundering in our chests. I could feel the culmination of everything, and I knew there would be no turning back. So, is this it? I gasped in between breaths as we sprinted, the world unraveling behind us. Do we have our future to face? Together? James halted for just a moment, our breaths mingling in the freezing air, and I saw the weight of his choices morph into resolve. Yes, Lily. Together. Just as we rounded a corner, the memory of Morris' words echoed through the back of my mind, an ominous reminder of the shadows that lingered even in our newfound promise. In the uncertainty of that moment, I felt the heat of a shared breath, a bond not yet broken, each heartbeat resonating loud enough to challenge the darkness to come. With trembling resolve, we stepped forward, not knowing where the night would take us but knowing we would meet it together, two souls intertwined, facing fear, facing hope, facing a future born from whispered dreams. But against the backdrop of impending choices, one thing lingered. An anchor within my heart. Together we would navigate the storm. And perhaps, if our spirits were unyielding enough, we might rise above the currents threatening to pull us under. In this chaotic mess, that belief alone felt like our true north, and I whispered it like a prayer in the deepening night, knowing love was powerful enough to illuminate even the darkest corners of our impending truth. When I finally spoke, my heart pulsed with conviction. Well, face it all, no matter what lurks in the shadows. And as the tattoos of silence gave way to the echoes of our footsteps, I knew, intimately, that this was just the beginning. There was a fire that pulsed in the fabric of our Levisa promise to weave something beautiful amidst the chaos. A promise that one day, we would emerge from the shadows back into the light. And as we ran, hand in hand, I understood with utmost clarity, sometimes, the only way to find yourself is to get lost together.